Captain Thomas Reed stared at the view screen with a mix of awe and dread. The Horizon, Earth's first true interstellar vessel, had emerged from its experimental jump drive into unknown space, far from the scheduled coordinates. What should have been a routine test of humanity's newest technology had become a one-way trip into a region of space no human had ever witnessed. "Status report," Reed demanded, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "Ship systems functioning at 89%, first." Officer Lisa Moore responded, fingers dancing across her console. "Jump drive is offline. We're approximately..." "Sir, if these readings are correct, we're over 6,000 light-years from Earth." The bridge fell silent. 6,000 light-years. The implications were staggering. Even with their revolutionary jump drive, it would take multiple jumps and significant time to return home, assuming they could repair the drive at all. "We've got company," announced Jack Torres, the tactical officer. "Multiple vessels approaching. Design unknown, not matching any Earth database." Reed straightened his uniform. "First contact scenario. All hands to stations. Open channels across all frequencies." Before they could establish communication, the bridge lights flickered as something seized the horizon in an invisible grip. "We're caught in some kind of tractor beam," Moore reported. "They're pulling us toward the largest vessel." Reed watched as an enormous ship, shaped like a curved blade, drew them closer. Its hull gleamed with symbols that seemed to shift and move as he watched. "Sir," Torres said quietly, "energy readings suggest their smallest escort vessel outguns us by at least a factor of 10. Reed nodded. "Let's hope they're friendly then." The communication screen suddenly illuminated, revealing a tall, graceful being with pale blue skin and eyes that contained too many pupils. When it spoke, the translator struggled before producing English. "Human vessel, you have violated Imperial Vex territory. Your presence is unlawful. Prepare for boarding and processing." Reed stepped forward. "This is Captain Thomas Reed of Earth's vessel Horizon. Our arrival was accidental. We mean no harm, and seek peaceful..." "Silence," the alien commander interrupted. "Your species is unknown to us. Unknown species are subject to the protocols of assessment. Resistance is unnecessary." Armed figures materialized on the bridge in bursts of light. Teleportation technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. The aliens towered over the humans, their armor seemingly alive, shifting to accommodate their movements. "Captain Reed," one of them addressed him directly, "you and your crew will submit to examination. Those found worthy may serve the Empire. Those deemed unworthy will be disposed of according to protocol." Reed exchanged glances with his bridge crew. They had trained for first contact, but nothing like this. "And if we refuse?" he asked. The alien's multiple pupils contracted. "Then we will extract what value we can from your vessel's technology and biological material." As the aliens began to herd the crew toward the teleporters, Reed noticed something odd. The aliens moved with caution around the humans, maintaining careful distance. Despite their technological superiority, something about the Earth crew made them wary. Reed caught Moore's eye and saw the same realization dawning there. The aliens were physically powerful and technologically advanced, but they were also afraid? What could an advanced spacefaring race possibly fear from humans? As they were marched off the bridge, Reed began to formulate a plan. The Horizon might be trapped, outnumbered, and outgunned in an unknown region of space, but he sensed a vulnerability in their captors, one that might just be humanity's salvation in this unexpected first contact. And perhaps, though he couldn't yet know it, the beginning of humanity's rise in a galactic stage they never knew existed. Aboard the Imperial Vex flagship, the Unyielding Decree, Captain Reed and his senior officers were separated from the rest of the crew. They were led through vast corridors that seemed to breathe, the walls subtly contracting and expanding like living tissue. "Their entire ship is partially organic," whispered Dr. Anna Wilson, the Horizon's chief scientist. "Incredible bioengineering." Their escort, who had introduced himself as Examination Officer Trell, swiveled his elongated head. "Silence during transfer. You will speak when authorized." They were brought to a circular chamber where 5 robed figures sat on elevated platforms. The central figure, distinguished by an elaborate headdress, leaned forward as the humans entered. "I am High Examiner Bren of the Imperial Vex Ascendancy," the alien announced. Your unexpected arrival presents a unique situation. No unregistered species has breached our territory in 7 cycles. Reed stepped forward. We're explorers, not invaders. Our jump technology malfunctioned. Jump technology? Interrupted one of the other examiners. Impossible. Their development profile suggests pre-spatial folding capability at best. Bren raised a 4-fingered hand. Yet here they stand. Preliminary scans of their vessel confirm rudimentary jump technology. Fascinating. He turned his multi-pupiled eyes back to Reed. You will provide complete schematics for analysis. I'm afraid I can't do that, Reed replied firmly. Our technology is proprietary to Earth. The chamber grew noticeably colder. You misunderstand, human. This is not a negotiation. As if on cue, Reed felt a strange pressure in his mind. A probing, invasive force attempting to sift through his memories. Around him, his fellow officers winced, experiencing the same violation. But then something unexpected happened. The examiner's expressions shifted from confidence to confusion, then to alarm. "Mental barriers!" one examiner exclaimed. "Natural resistance!" Bren stood abruptly. "Impossible! No species possesses natural psionic shielding without evolutionary development." Reed hadn't felt any natural resistance, only the violation of having his mind invaded. But he recognized an advantage when he saw one. "Perhaps you should reconsider your approach to first contact, Examiner Bren." Before Bren could respond, an alarm blared throughout the chamber. A junior officer rushed in, his movements radiating urgency. "Hi, Examiner. The human vessel. Its power core is exhibiting unusual radiation. Our containment fields are having minimal effect, and 3 maintenance drones have already malfunctioned." Reed suppressed a smile. The Horizon's fusion reactor had a unique electromagnetic signature that often interfered with sensitive equipment. Not harmful to the ship itself due to specialized shielding, but apparently troublesome to the Imperial Vex's systems. Additionally, the junior officer continued, the human crew members in holding cell section 4 have infected several guards with an unknown contagion. The guards are experiencing respiratory distress and epidermal irritation. Reed exchanged glances with Dr. Wilson, who whispered, "The common cold? Or perhaps just normal bacteria?" The revelation struck Reed immediately. The Vex might be technologically superior, but their biology was fundamentally different from humanity's. What was harmless to humans could be devastating to them. Bren turned to Reed, his multiple pupils dilating with what appeared to be concern. "Your species carries biological agents harmful to our kind?" "We carry thousands of microorganisms that are harmless to us," Reed explained, seeing another potential advantage. "It's possible your people lack immunity to them." The examiners conferred, quickly in their native language before Bren addressed Reed again. "Captain, it seems your vessel and crew present unique challenges. Perhaps a more cooperative approach would benefit both parties." Reed nodded, careful not to appear too eager. "I believe it would, starting with the immediate return of my crew and restoration of our control over the Horizon." What had begun as captivity was evolving into something else. The possibility of humanity's first interstellar alliance, built not on conquest, but on the unexpected strengths of a species the Imperial Vex had gravely underestimated. 3 days after the tense first meeting, Captain Reed stood beside High Examiner Bren on the observation deck of the unyielding Decree. Before them stretched a holographic map of the galaxy, sectors illuminated in various colors. "The situation is dire," Bren explained, gesturing to a large red section spreading like a disease across the galactic west. "The swarm has consumed 17 systems in the past cycle alone. The Imperial Vex ascendancy has held them at bay, but our resources dwindle." Reed studied the map thoughtfully. After the initial confrontation, relations had improved dramatically. The Vex had discovered, through painful trial and error, that humans possessed traits unique among known species: natural resistance to psionic manipulation, robust immune systems that harbored microbes deadly to many alien species, and remarkable adaptive capabilities. "And you believe the Horizon can somehow make a difference against this threat?" Reed asked. "Not the vessel itself," Bren clarified, his multiple pupils contracting, "but its jump drive technology. The swarm predicts standard wormhole trajectories, allowing them to ambush our fleets. Your random jump capability could be the unpredictable variable we need. Reed nodded slowly. Your scientists have been studying our drive system. What have they learned? Very little, Bren admitted with evident frustration. Your technology functions on principles, unfamiliar to us, mechanical rather than psionic, crude but effective, and most importantly, impossible for the swarm to predict. Back aboard the Horizon, now repaired and upgraded with Vex technology, Reed met with his senior staff. They're desperate, Lisa Moore observed. This swarm has them running scared. Dr. Wilson nodded. From the biological samples they've shared, the swarm appears to be a hive mind species that consumes all organic matter in its path. They're essentially a galaxy-wide plague. What's interesting, added engineer Mike Foster, is that the Vex and most species in this sector rely on psionic technology influenced by thought. The swarm has evolved to counter this perfectly, while our primitive mechanical and electronic systems are immune, Reed concluded. Our weakness has become our strength. Jack Torres, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. Captain, are we really considering helping them? The Horizon is all that remains of Earth out here. If we engage in this war and lose... Reed understood the concern. They were still strangers in a vast, unknown galaxy, with no way to contact Earth. Yet the opportunity to establish humanity as a valuable ally in galactic politics was too significant to ignore. We won't commit to full engagement, Reed decided, but we'll assist with reconnaissance using our jump capabilities. If we can help the Vex defeat this swarm, we gain powerful allies who can potentially help us return home. The next week saw the Horizon making carefully calculated jumps along the borders of swarm territory, gathering intelligence impossible for Vex vessels to obtain. Each successful mission earned them greater respect from the Imperial hierarchy. During one such mission, however, disaster struck. The Horizon emerged from a jump directly into a swarm patrol. Before they could jump again, the ship was surrounded by grotesque organic vessels that resembled massive insects. Jump drive needs 2 minutes to recalibrate, Foster shouted over. The alarm. We don't have 2 minutes, Torres responded grimly, as the tactical display showed the swarm vessels closing in. Reed made a split-second decision. Full power to forward shields. Arm nuclear torpedoes. Weapons free. The bridge crew stared at him in shock. Nuclear torpedoes were their last resort. Planet killers never intended for ship-to-ship combat in close quarters. Sir, the radiation, backwash will, Torres began. Will be less than what the swarm will do to us, Reed finished. Fire! The torpedo launched, detonating in a blinding flash that momentarily overloaded the view screen. When the image cleared, the nearest swarm vessels had been reduced to drifting organic debris. The Horizon's shields had held, though they flickered dangerously. Jump drive ready, Foster announced. Get us out of here, Reed ordered. When they returned to Vex space, they brought not only valuable intelligence, but also the first recorded tactical victory against a swarm patrol. The Horizon's primitive nuclear weapons, considered obsolete by Vex standards, had proven devastatingly effective against the swarm's organic vessels. Humanity had just changed the course of a galactic war they hadn't known existed a month ago. The defensive line cannot hold. The Vex admiral's voice crackled through the communication channel as his flagship listed to one side, biomechanical components failing under the swarm's assault. Captain Reed watched from the Horizon's bridge as the battle unfolded. 6 months had passed since their accidental arrival in this sector of space, and the situation had grown increasingly desperate. Despite initial successes using human technology against the swarm, the hive mind had adapted, evolving new defenses and more aggressive tactics. All Vex vessels, fall back to secondary positions, Reed commanded, now serving as tactical coordinator for the joint fleet. Horizon Squadron, prepare for synchronized jump on my mark. The Horizon Squadron consisted of 5 Vex vessels retrofitted with human-designed jump drives, the first fruits of the technology exchange between humans and the Imperial Vex. Each was captained by a human-Vex joint command team. Mark! The squadron vanished, only to reappear behind the swarm's front line. Nuclear torpedoes, now refined with Vex enhancements, launched simultaneously, tearing through the unprotected rear of the swarm formation. For a moment, it seemed the tide had turned. Then, A massive shadow emerged from the darkness of space, a swarm hive ship, 10 times larger than any they had encountered before. "All vessels, evasive maneuvers," Reed ordered, but it was too late. The hive ship released a pulse of energy that disabled the jump drives of the entire Horizon squadron. One by one, the retrofitted vessels were overwhelmed by smaller swarm ships. "Captain," Moore reported grimly, "we've lost contact with 3 squadron vessels. The remaining 2 are being boarded." Reed clenched his jaw. This was no longer about gathering intelligence or hit-and-run tactics. The full might of the swarm had arrived, and they were losing. "Set course for the hive ship," he ordered. "Sir?" Torres questioned, eyes wide. "You heard me, Lieutenant. If we can't outfight them, we'll infiltrate them. Prepare boarding parties." The plan was insane by any standard, sending human teams directly into the belly of the beast. Yet, as they had discovered, the swarm had no defense against certain human pathogens. What had begun as an accidental biological reaction had been developed into a potential weapon. Dr. Wilson approached Reed as the boarding teams prepared. "Captain, the biological agent is ready, but I must emphasize its experimental nature. We've engineered it from human common cold viruses to specifically target swarm biology. But in that environment, rapid mutation is possible." "Noted, Doctor. Have you inoculated our boarding teams?" "Yes, but the vaccine's effectiveness is theoretical at best." Reed nodded grimly. "Theoretical is all we have left. The boarding operation was chaos from the start. The Horizon used its remaining functional torpedoes as a diversion, allowing 3 shuttles to penetrate the hive ship's organic hull. Reed led the main team personally, against all protocols. Inside, the hive ship was a nightmare landscape of pulsing flesh and chitinous corridors. The teams moved quickly, planting devices designed to disperse the engineered virus throughout the ship's atmosphere circulation system. "Final device placed," Reed confirmed, ducking as a group of swarm drones scuttled past their hiding place. "All teams, return to shuttles." But as they retreated, the ship seemed to become aware of their presence. Walls closed, passages sealed, and swarm warriors converged on their position. "We're cut off from the shuttle bay," Moore reported over the comm. "Alternative route needed." Reed studied his tactical display. "There." He pointed to what appeared to be a central chamber. "If that's their command center, it should connect to multiple sections of the ship. We go through there." Fighting their way forward, Reed's team burst into the central chamber and froze in horror. Before them floated an enormous brain-like structure, pulsing with bioluminescent energy. Countless neural tendrils extended outward, connecting to smaller nodules throughout the chamber. "The hive mind," Wilson whispered in awe. "The actual controlling intelligence." Reed didn't hesitate. "Plant the remaining dispersal devices here. This is better than we could have hoped." As they worked, the chamber's entrances sealed. The brain structure pulsed more rapidly, and a psychic pressure filled the room, driving some team members to their knees. "Humans!" A voice resonated directly in their minds. "You bring disease and disorder. You cannot be consumed. You cannot be controlled. You are wrongness." Reed stepped forward, facing the massive brain. "We bring your extinction." The final device activated, releasing a cloud of engineered virus directly into the heart of the hive mind. The psychic scream that followed knocked the entire team unconscious. When Reed awoke, he was back aboard the Horizon, Moore standing over him. "How?" he began. "The Vex retrieved us," she explained. "After you activated the final device, the entire hive ship went dormant. All swarm vessels in the sector suddenly lost coordination." She paused. "Sir, we've won this battle, but what? The virus is mutating, just as Dr. Wilson feared. It's affecting systems we never anticipated." Reed closed his eyes briefly. Victory, it seemed, had come with unexpected consequences. 1 year after the successful attack on the swarm hive ship, Captain Reed stood at the viewport of the newly constructed Nexus station. The massive space installation hung at the boundary between former swarm territory and Imperial Vex space, a symbol of the changing galactic order. "Quite a view," remarked Admiral Krell, the Vex military leader who had become Reed's closest ally. Unlike most Vex, Krell had undergone genetic modification to safely interact with humans without environmental suits. "Hard to believe how much has changed," Reed replied. watching as ships from a dozen different species docked at the station. A year ago, this sector was a war zone. The defeat of the primary hive ship had indeed turned the tide of the war, but not in ways anyone had predicted. The engineered virus had done more than simply kill swarm organisms. It had splintered the hive mind into countless independent fragments. The emancipation effect, Dr. Wilson had named it. The virus had severed the psychic chains binding drone minds to the central consciousness, granting them individual thought for the first time in their evolutionary history. The council session begins in 1 hour, Krell reminded Reed. As humanity's representative, your presence is required, Reed nodded. The Galactic Council, once dominated by the Imperial Vex and a handful of their allied species, had been reformed to include representatives from all major powers, including the various factions of former swarm consciousness. Are the new delegates from the Unity Cluster attending? Reed asked, referring to one of the largest former swarm groups that had developed a democratic collective consciousness. They arrived this morning, Krell confirmed, along with representatives from the Deep Space Coalition. The Deep Space Coalition was perhaps the most surprising development, a group of spacefaring species that had been hiding in the galactic periphery, using technology specifically designed to avoid detection by both the Vex and the Swarm. They had emerged only after news spread of humanity's unique physiology and technologies. Reed made his way to the council chamber, where representatives from 23 species now gathered regularly. The humans of the horizon had become legendary figures, the single ship that had changed the balance of galactic power not through overwhelming force, but through biological uniqueness and technological innovation. Captain Reed, greeted Mira, a former swarm drone now serving as Unity Cluster's ambassador. Her chitinous exoskeleton had been modified with mechanical enhancements, symbolizing the fusion of organic and technological advancement. The Unity extends gratitude for our freedom to evolve independently. Reed nodded respectfully. The relationship with former swarm entities remained complex. They were neither fully allies nor enemies, but something unprecedented. The council session focused on the latest crisis, the discovery of mysterious artifacts appearing throughout former swarm territory. Objects of apparent technological origin, yet operating on principles understanding to any known species. Our analysis suggests these artifacts predate all our civilizations, the Vex chief scientist explained. They appear to be activating in response to the changing psychic landscape following the swarm's fragmentation. Debate raged among the council members about how to respond to this new development. Some argued for caution and quarantine, others for aggressive study and potential weaponization. When it was Reed's turn to speak, he approached the central platform. Though he represented only 67 humans, the crew of the Horizon, his voice carried weight disproportionate to their numbers. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, he began. The old order of dominance and consumption has ended. These artifacts may be dangerous, but they also represent an opportunity to understand our galaxy's true history. He paused, looking around at the assembled representatives. I propose the formation of a joint exploration initiative. Scientists and explorers from all council species working together to investigate these artifacts safely. The Horizon volunteered for too many dangerous missions alone. This time, we move forward together. The proposal passed with overwhelming support. As the session concluded, Reed found himself approached by Ambassador Trell, the same Vex who had once taken him prisoner during first contact. Captain Reed, Trell said quietly, there is something you should know. Our deepest archaeological records suggest the artifacts may be connected to previous human presence in this galaxy. Reed stared at him. That's impossible. We only developed interstellar travel recently. Perhaps not your current civilization, Trell suggested, but the genetic markers that make humans immune to psychic influence and carriers of unique microbiomes, they appear engineered, not evolved naturally. The implication struck Reed like a physical blow. Had humans been to this galaxy before? Had they been deliberately engineered as a counter to psionic species like the Vex and the Swarm? Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Unknown vessel approaching, announced the station's AI. Design matches no known configuration. On the main view screen, a ship appeared, unlike anything Reed had ever seen. Yet somehow, inexplicably, the design triggered a sense of familiarity. Captain Reed, the station AI continued, The vessel is broadcasting on Earth frequencies. They're requesting to speak with you specifically. The chamber fell silent as Reed stepped forward, facing a mystery that suggested humanity's role in the galaxy might be far older and more significant than anyone had imagined. The mysterious vessel hung in space before the assembled diplomatic fleet, its design both alien and strangely familiar. Smooth, curved surfaces reflected starlight in patterns that seemed to shift as Reed watched from the Nexus Station's command center. No visible propulsion system, weapons, or even entry points disturbed its seamless hull. "Any response to our communications?" Reed asked the station's communications officer. "None since their initial request to speak with you specifically, Captain," the officer replied. "But they're maintaining position exactly 10,000 kilometers from the station. That precision suggests deliberate intent." Admiral Krell joined Reed at the view screen. "Our analysis detects technology signatures similar to the artifacts we've been discovering, but far more advanced. Whatever this vessel represents, it's connected to the ancient civilization that left those markers." Reed made his decision. "Prepare. My shuttle. I'll meet them personally." "Captain," Moore objected. "Protocol demands—" "Protocol hasn't applied since the day we arrived in this galaxy," Reed interrupted. "If they want to speak with me, I'll hear what they have to say." The shuttle journey was tense. Reed piloted alone, despite vehement objections from his crew and the Vex Security Council. As he approached the vessel, a seam appeared in its previously seamless hull, widening into an entrance just large enough for the shuttle. "Well," Reed muttered to himself, "here goes nothing." Inside the vessel, Reed found an environment that appeared specifically designed for human comfort. Earth normal gravity, temperature, and atmosphere. He was met by a figure that appeared human at first glance. Those subtle differences became apparent as they approached. "Captain Thomas Reed," the figure greeted him. Its voice was melodious and gender-neutral. "I am Envoy, representative of the predecessors." "You look human," Reed observed cautiously. "This form was chosen for your comfort," Envoy explained. "My actual appearance would be disorienting to you, just as the true nature of this vessel extends beyond your current perceptual capabilities." They walked through corridors that seemed to extend impossibly beyond the external dimensions of the ship. "You said you represent the predecessors," Reed prompted. "Who are they?" "The predecessors are what remains of the civilization that seeded this galaxy with intelligent life," Envoy explained, "including the original genetic templates for humanity." Reed stopped walking. "You're claiming humans were created by your people?" "Not created," Envoy corrected. "Guided. The predecessors found Earth when your species was in its earliest evolutionary stages. They recognized unique potential and made subtle adjustments, capabilities that would manifest millions of years later." "The immunity to psychic influence," Reed realized. "Our robust immune systems." "Precisely. The predecessors foresaw that psionic development would become the dominant evolutionary path in this galaxy. They designed humans as a counterbalance. HFY species that could interact with psionic civilizations while remaining mentally independent. They entered what appeared to be a control center, where images of Earth, from prehistoric times to the present, floated in holographic displays." "But why?" Reed asked. "Why engineer a species, and then leave it alone for millions of years?" "The predecessors faced extinction from a threat beyond this galaxy," Envoy explained. "They could not remain to guide the species they had influenced. Instead, they created a system of artifacts, technology that would activate when the time was right." "The artifacts we've been finding," Reed concluded. "Yes. Designed to awaken when a psychically immune species made contact with a dominant psionic civilization. Your encounter with the Imperial Vex triggered the awakening sequence." Reed struggled to process the implications. "So, humanity was engineered as some kind of fail-safe? A counter to psychic dominance?" "A balancing force," Envoy corrected. "The predecessors believed diverse evolutionary paths were necessary for galactic stability. The swarm represented psionic evolution gone wrong, a hive mind that consumed rather than collaborated." "And now that the artifacts are activating," Reed asked, "they will provide knowledge and technology to restore balance. Already your engineered virus has freed countless minds from swarm control, creating new evolutionary branches. But There is more to come. Envoy gestured, and the holographic displays shifted to show stellar maps, technologies, and biological systems far beyond current understanding. The predecessors left gifts for all species, to be unlocked when genuine cooperation began. Your single vessel, arriving unexpectedly in this sector, created the conditions for that cooperation. Reed thought of the newly formed Galactic Council, where former enemies now debated as equals. It all seems too convenient, too perfect. Not perfect, Envoy corrected. Necessary. The threat that drove the predecessors to extinction still exists beyond the galactic rim. In time, it will return. The galaxy must be unified and technologically prepared when that occurs. What threat? Reed demanded. That knowledge must wait, Envoy replied. For now, I offer you this choice. Return to Earth with the jump drive, technology you've developed, or continue the work you've begun here, as humanity's ambassador to a galaxy awakening to its true history and purpose. Reed stared at the holographic displays showing Earth, the home he had feared he would never see again. Then he looked at images of the newborn Galactic Alliance, still fragile but growing stronger each day. If what you say is true, Reed said, slowly, then humanity needs to know its place in this larger story. Then you have made your choice, Envoy observed. Not yet, Reed countered. First, I need proof I can take back to my crew and the Council. Evidence of these claims. Envoy nodded. That is wise, Captain Reed. The predecessors anticipated skepticism. The being gestured, and a small crystalline object appeared floating between them. This contains verifiable data, scientific, historical, and technological, that will confirm our discussion. As Reed reached for the crystal, he wondered what future awaited humanity in this vast, ancient game of galactic chess, and whether they would remain pawns or become players in their own right. 5 years after the arrival of the predecessor envoy, Earth received its first communication from the long-lost horizon. The message traveled through a network of specially constructed relay stations spanning the 6,000 light-years between Earth and what had come to be known as the Nexus sector. On Earth, the message was received with shock and celebration. The Horizon and its crew, presumed lost during the experimental jump drive test, had not only survived, but established humanity's presence among a complex network of alien civilizations. More shocking were the revelations that followed. Humanity's engineered origins, the ancient artifacts, and the alliance that now spanned hundreds of systems. Most concerning was the warning about the threat lurking beyond the galactic rim, a danger the predecessors had fled and that would, in time, return. Admiral James Wilson, head of Earth's Space Command, stood before the United Earth Council, presenting the final communication package from Captain Reed. The Horizon crew has provided us with technological specifications for improved jump drives and defensive systems, Wilson explained. More importantly, they've established diplomatic channels for Earth's formal entry into the Galactic Council. And these claims about humanity being engineered? Asked one council member skeptically. The genetic evidence is compelling, responded Dr. Elena Petrov, Earth's leading xenobiologist. The markers in human DNA that grant us immunity to psychic influence cannot be explained by normal evolutionary processes. The data provided by Captain Reed has been verified by multiple independent laboratories. Across the galaxy in the Nexus sector, Reed stood aboard the observation deck of the newly commissioned vessel Emissary, Earth's first purpose-built diplomatic ship, constructed using a combination of human ingenuity and technologies shared by their new allies. Earth has responded to our message, Moore informed him, now serving as his executive officer. They're sending a diplomatic mission. Estimated arrival through the relay network is 3 months. Reed nodded, studying the holographic display, showing the latest discovery, an enormous predecessor installation hidden within a gas giant's atmosphere in what had once been swarm territory. The installation was one of 7 now being studied by joint research teams from across the Council species. The Unity Cluster delegation has made another breakthrough in translating the predecessor archives, Dr. Wilson added, joining them. At the display, they believe they've identified the nature of the external threat. Reed turned to her. Show me. The holographic display shifted, showing what appeared to be living darkness, a void that consumed light, matter, and energy. The translation labeled it simply as the negation. According to the archives, Wilson explained, the negation exists outside normal space-time. It's drawn to highly advanced civilizations, particularly those with extensive psychic development. The predecessors fled when their home galaxy was consumed, and they believe it will eventually be drawn to our galaxy, Reed concluded. Yes, but not for millennia. The archives suggest the predecessors set in motion a plan spanning millions of years, seeding species with complementary traits that, when combined, could create defenses the predecessors themselves failed to develop. Reed considered this information. So, humanity's resistance to psychic influence, the Vex's biomechanical technologies, the Swarm's adaptive biology, all pieces of a puzzle, Wilson confirmed. The artifacts are activating now, because all necessary evolutionary branches have reached suitable development. The observation deck door slid open as Engineer Foster entered, accompanied by a representative from the Deep Space Coalition, a species that resembled crystalline trees, communicating through light patterns. "Captain," Foster announced, "the prototype defensive shield is ready for testing. The Coalition's light-bending technology, combined with our electromagnetic principles, has produced something entirely new. The first true collaborative technology," Reed noted with satisfaction. As preparations for the test proceeded, Reed found a moment of quiet contemplation. The Horizon's accidental jump 5 years ago had cascaded into changes no one could have predicted. A single human vessel had indeed changed the fate of the galaxy, breaking the dominance of the Imperial Vex, fracturing the swarm into a diversity of conscious species, revealing the ancient legacy of the predecessors, and beginning the technological collaboration that might, centuries hence, save all sentient life from extinction. Message from Admiral Krell. Moore interrupted his thoughts. The council session is beginning. The vote on establishing the Joint Defense Initiative is scheduled for today. Reed nodded. The initiative represented the most ambitious collaborative project in known galactic history, a network of research stations, defense platforms, and early warning systems spanning the entire galaxy, drawing on the unique strengths of each member species. The Earth delegation has transmitted their first official message to you personally, Moore added, handing him a data crystal. Reed inserted it into the nearest terminal. The face of Admiral Wilson appeared. "Captain Reed, your discoveries have forever changed humanity's understanding of our place in the universe. The Earth Council has voted unanimously to join the Galactic Alliance you've helped forge. We entrust you with continuing to represent humanity's interests as we prepare for this historic new chapter. The future of our species, of all intelligent species, may depend on the foundations you are building there." As the message ended, Reed looked out at the stars. Somewhere beyond them lurked a threat perhaps centuries from arriving. Yet here, in this moment, former enemies worked together, sharing knowledge and building defenses that no single species could create alone. The Horizon's accidental journey had been just the beginning. Humanity's true voyage, as part of a galactic community with an ancient legacy and a common future, was only now truly beginning. And it had all started with a single human vessel, lost among the stars, that had changed the fate of the galaxy forever.